We've all heard the phrase, do what you love and the money will follow. But what if I told you that cultivating work that you really enjoy and feel fulfilled by is less about doing what you love and instead learning to love what you do? If you're wanting to make a career change in 2025 and leave behind a job that you don't enjoy, then I am totally with you. My name is Ciara, I'm 29. Over the last several years, I've been under a lot of stress and I'm finally coming to the big burnout from pursuing a full-time PhD in computer science while managing a company full-time in the area of drama and theatre, both of which required a huge amount of work and time and attention. I'm ready for a change to let go of both of these elements in service of pursuing my content creation a bit more full-time, but also following my dreams of becoming an actor and training as a full-time actor. It's quite a scary time when you want to make a transition out of one job into another or one way of life into another. What can be even more scary in the process is asking yourself the question that I've been asking myself, which is, what if this doesn't actually make me happy? And will I ever find work that's going to make me happy? When trying to answer that question, I came across the book So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. Cal Newport has written a number of different books that you might have heard of, such as Deep Work, Slow Productivity, and Digital Minimalism. I read this book hoping that it would help me to better my chances of succeeding in an alternative path, but it also had me asking the question, is it possible to learn to love a job that you hate? We've all heard the phrase, do what you love and the money will follow. But this book teaches us that it's less about doing what you love, rather learning to love what you do. The central theme of this book is that following your passion is bad advice for many, many reasons. There's a famous video of Steve Jobs giving a talk to a graduating class where his essential advice is to follow your passion. But if we look into Steve Jobs' story specifically, it wasn't some passion that led him to the success and the joy that he has had in his career. Most people don't have some passion that is waiting to be discovered, and most people that are happy in their jobs didn't find their jobs by following their passion. For example, Steve Jobs. There was this big surge in the idea of following your passion and finding your passion, and that was the key to having a career or a work life that you enjoyed. But since that has happened, there has been actually a decrease in enjoyment of work. Cal Newport talks about this idea of the passion mindset, which is that quite American idea, I would say, of wanting to find this spark and this specific dream job that is going to be the answers to all of your happiness in terms of work. Having this mindset of needing to be passionate or needing to have some passion in your job tends to open us up more to the negative aspects of our job. When we think about the idea of being passionate for a job, we're essentially asking what the world can do for us. So how can our work serve us? Instead of thinking about how we can serve our job. There's this idea in relationships or friendships or, it doesn't have to be romantic relationships, where we think that people doing things for us makes us feel closer to them, but actually it's doing things for other people that makes us feel closer to them. So when you ask someone for a favor and they do that thing for you, it's that person that feels closer to you from that action rather than the other way around. It's about how can we put ourselves into this job in the best way, and that will actually improve our ability of feeling connected and feeling a joy for this job more than the other way around. Following your passion can also be dangerous advice, particularly when you don't have the skills to back up that change. If, for example, you are working in a particular area and then you decide to make a complete 180 transition into another area where you don't have any skills for it, it's unlikely that that's going to be a successful transition, and then that will probably have you feeling quite dissatisfied. For example, I have now several degrees in maths and statistics and computer science, and I'm wanting to pursue acting. If I had no skills in acting, there's very little possibility that that is going to work out well for me. Now, that's not the situation that I'm in because I did a lot of actor training as a child. I lacked a lot of confidence in myself, and that's something that I've needed to work on. In the meantime, I've been teaching drama. I've still been continuing to upskill in terms of my knowledge of acting, and I've done several courses that has led me to this position, and all of that's happening so that I can make this transition into a full-time course, and that's then going to lead me to actually be able to pursue that as a profession. So there's a lot more that's going into it than just being like, okay, I'm gonna quit my job and become an actor. That's not realistic, even with all of the experience that I have. Passion alone isn't enough to ensure that you're going to have satisfaction in that job. You need to be good at it. The idea of the book title, So Good They Can't Ignore You, comes from an interview with Steve Martin, where he said that if you're focusing on being so good that they can't ignore you, so you're so good at your job that people have to pay attention to you, you will find success. If passion doesn't actually lead to motivation, what does? There's this idea called self-determination theory, which is all about intrinsic motivation, and that's motivation that comes from the inside rather than the outside external factors. There are 3 things that they say that you need for intrinsic motivation for work. One is competence. Feeling like you're good at your job or being good at your job. The second thing that you need is control. That's a sense of control over your day. The third thing that you need is connection. So feeling connected to other people through your work, and having positive social interactions from work is a key way of staying motivated at work. There was some study sometime that I'll put up here about how having a friend in work is quite a high indicator for whether you're going to be satisfied in work and whether you're going to continue working there. So connection is a huge part of that. I think it's a piece that we really undervalue a lot in our society. How can you learn to love a job that you don't like or that you actively hate? Well, we've talked about the 3 things that are going to help you to feel a sense of motivation towards your work. And over time, these can definitely lead to feeling passionate about your job. There was a study about administrators who over time felt a strong passion for their work because they had those 3 elements of over time feeling competent at their job. Naturally, in the first year or maybe 2 years of a job, you're not going to feel competent and you're not going to enjoy it as much. They also felt a sense of control and connection through their work. We're going to talk about my management job because I've really not been enjoying it for quite some time. It's been making me feel really, really unhappy and really guilty because there are aspects of the job that I love. I love teaching and I love the mission of this company and what we provide for our students. And I like to be able to provide this employment for the employees. But my actual job that I actually do is pretty miserable. And I really don't enjoy it and it really stresses me out. So thinking about those 3 aspects that we talked about, number 1 being competence, feeling competent in your role. I've been feeling like a really bad manager, especially in the last year, because I've been having these really conflicting feelings, especially since I've been delegating things to an admin assistant. It means that our communication has gotten worse. Overall, it's just making me feel like I'm doing a bad job as a manager. And that really sucks. It's a really terrible feeling. It's really frustrating. It's really frustrating, especially because I know there are other things that I'm good at, that I have qualifications in, that I could be going and earning more money from, that I also probably wouldn't enjoy. But at least I think it will be less stressful and probably more financially beneficial. So I'm finding that really difficult. The second thing is control. While in theory, being the top person in charge should allow me to have complete control over my day, that doesn't happen. I haven't taken holidays without being disturbed by staff or some big situation that's happened since 5 years. I don't feel like I have control over my day because either thoughts of anxiety around the business come and disrupt days off, or actual things happening, whether it's minor or major, come in and will affect that as well. And that is really difficult to deal with. Is there a solution to this? Yes, I would say improving the delegation aspects would be a way to improve this. Better communication with my team around boundaries and allowing people to figure out situations for themselves, putting that control into other people's hands as well, I think is quite necessary. It's just that it's a difficult transition that needs to happen. But yeah, there's absolutely no way that I would enjoy this job over time if this continues to go on, where I can't enjoy a day off without thinking about what might happen. It does make things feel really out of control, and that's just not a pleasant experience. And then the final aspect is connection. Because I tend to be a lot more on my own in this work and a lot on my own in the struggles of the business, it's really hard for me to feel connected to others, especially when I'm having these like difficult feelings around wanting to make this change. It makes me feel really kind of dishonest towards others. Trying to improve that, it would be trying to get other people to my level of the company and not just being the sole director, but having other people on the creative director team that I can actually confide in and connect with and feel like I'm not just everyone's boss, because it's hard for me to feel like I can actually form friendships in this job when that is the case. We're going to focus on the idea of competence or skills, and this is one of the key ideas in the book. It's the idea that you need career capital if you want to acquire the other elements that can lead to good work, such as getting control or more autonomy in your work, as well as getting connected to a strong mission that will motivate your work. Career capital is the first thing that's needed before any of these other things can be acquired. Career capital are these rare and valuable skills that people will pay for, essentially. I think for the last several years, I've been definitely in a habit of having the getting things done mindset when it comes to being productive at work. That is mainly because I've been really busy and there's a lot of things that need to get done, and I haven't really had the time to consider skill building in my work through research or through management. So naturally, I haven't been connected to this idea of feeling competent in my work. I've just been feeling like I'm getting things done and things are happening and things are moving, and that's fine. But I've been finding it difficult to acknowledge any of those achievements or anything that is a kind of positive of me in my job. Cal Newport suggests that rather than having this mindset of getting things done and to-do lists all of the time, we instead take on the Craftsman mindset, where you think about your job as a craft that you are continuously improving. I think with management work especially, I can be very black and white in my thinking. I'm a good manager or I'm a bad manager. If there's things that need to be improved, which there always do in this kind of job, that means I'm a bad manager. And that's just from having a really strong perfectionist mindset. Trying to shift that into the craftsman mindset where, you know, there's skills within this job that can be built over time when you're putting in work towards those skills. That happens through a process called deliberate practice. This is where you're stretching yourselves to the limit of your knowledge, just enough so that you are growing in those skills, not too much where you'll end up feeling frustrated. It's easier to think about this when it comes to something like sports skills, where you can imagine going out and trying to, you know, improve your sprinting. So you're obviously working towards a faster sprint, but you're pushing yourself as hard as you can without overdoing it. Or something like musicianship, where again, you're trying to push yourself in terms of those skills and you're practicing deliberately to improve those skills rather than kind of mindlessly playing the same things again and again. The same thing can be brought into your working life. You just kind of have to think about how this can be applied to your own work. If you're in a research area, Cal Newport provides a good example because he himself was working as a professor. I suppose he probably still is. His form of deliberate practice was to set a goal each week of reading one paper and summarizing one paper in his research journal. There was a couple of other tasks like that he did. He also tracked how much time he was spending each week in that state of deliberate practice rather than in that state of getting things done. In my management job, for example, it's hard for me to see that sense of my skills in this role. One thing I think that you can start off by doing is to write out a list of skills that your job requires and see which of those skills you could work on. It would be useful to work on all of those skills, but I think if there's any that you feel are particularly making you feel less competent in your job, then this can be the one to focus on. For example, I would say my main problem is that when it comes to me trying to delegate responsibilities to people, they're not exactly sure how to do those things because there isn't clear procedures or clear policies around what actually needs to happen in those situations. And I'm in the process of writing up these procedures, and as I'm starting to do that and starting to improve how that handover process happens for different aspects of the job, I'm definitely starting to feel a bit more comfortable in my role as a manager. The other kind of skills that I would require would be things like financial planning. That's a skill that I would say I'm generally quite good at. Scheduling is another skill that I would say I'm quite good at. Ones that need work would be around just making my communication a bit clearer, feedback process for staff, and then just getting the staff more involved, I think, in different aspects of the role instead of just doing things myself because it's easier if I do them. Things that I've found really helpful in trying to improve my relationship with this job in recent months has been actually tracking the work that I've been doing. It's allowing me to see all of the work that I do and the contributions that I'm making to this company. It's also allowing me to see opportunities to improve processes and opportunities to delegate. As I'm going through this process, I'm able to write up more about what is going on in these situations so that I could eventually pass over some of that management work to someone else. I've also started tracking how much time I'm spending on those particular in the moment admin tasks versus the time spent towards the longer term improving my abilities as a manager and improving things for the business itself. The second key idea is around gaining control. Because we're talking about that idea of career capital and the craftsman mindset, if you're doing those things where you're practicing deliberately specific skills that are rare and valuable, the idea is that over time, once those skills have been developed, you will have these rare and valuable skills that can be traded for control. Now, control can mean lots of different things, but the key idea that I want to get across here is that you can't have control until you have career capital. I'm going to use content creation as an example here. If I wanted to pursue content creation full time, or if you're thinking about doing that, maybe you're thinking about quitting your job to become a content creator, but I didn't have the skills as a content creator to do that, it's unlikely that this is going to go well. You'd have all the control in the world in the sense that you can make your own schedule, you don't answer to anybody, you can do what you want, you can make videos, you can not make videos. And that was always something that I loved about doing this job. It was for me, it was on my own schedule, nobody was waiting for me apart from obviously the watchers, and that is a key thing because if you don't have that watch group, then you don't have anything in this kind of business. But it wasn't like there was somebody, above me that is saying, hey, where's your content? So you've got all the control in the world, but if you don't have the career capital, if you don't have the skills, if you haven't spent the time so that you're so good that you can't be ignored in this kind of climate, which is in the book described as a winner takes all market, it's not going to work out. And that's just the facts. For you to be successful in this as a job, there needs to be a certain amount of people watching for that to be able to continue to roll through, whether that's ads revenue or a continuous stream towards a product, for example. I am definitely not even there. I'm getting close to 40,000 subscribers now. I've been doing this for 5 years on and off. I'm still not there where I would say, yeah, it's a safe bet for me to pursue this full time. Absolutely not. I think in the last year, because I have been returning to the joy of content creation more and trying to think about, again, building those skills. How can I improve my videos? How can I improve the scripting that I've done? How can I make the thumbnails more engaging? And I've been actually trying to make my content better. I think that's what's leading to more recent mini successes that I've been having along the way. But I certainly wouldn't say that I'm at that place where that's a safe bet for me to just go ahead and do that. The other important idea around control and career capital that Cal Newport brings in is that at some point when you have this career capital, that's essentially rare and valuable skills that people are willing to pay for. And at that stage, there will be an offer. Someone will try and trade that for money. And in different types of jobs, they're talking about how you might be offered a promotion that will actually take away from your control. So you'll be put into a position that's maybe going to reduce the amount of control you have over your day, and you want to resist that temptation. The same way, if everything went really well with this content and this YouTube channel, for example, I could scale up to try and, you know, build things out, and then I'd have to hire people, and then I'd probably need to get people to manage me, and there'd be more people now that rely on me, and all of a sudden my control is gone, because now this brand is not just me doing this when I want to, but there are people that rely on this, and it becomes stressful. And there have been a number of different creators that I feel this has happened to, where they've then eventually had to shut down businesses because they didn't want that. They didn't want that lack of control. They didn't want to feel stressed all the time. You know, it's finding that balance. You could go for more of a capital gain, but you're losing the control by doing that, and it's just about being careful about something like that. The final thing that is talked about in terms of something that will bring you more joy in your working life is the idea of a mission for your work. Now, I think this is something that's kind of linked to passion, but not quite. I think a mission is, again, more about what you can do for the world rather than what the world can do for you. It's not necessarily something you're going to have when you start your job. Actually, for the most part, it's when you've spent all that time developing these skills and getting to the edge of ability in a certain career, that's when you'll find the mission, because that's when you'll see what's missing. If we're thinking again about content creation, I have been spending a lot of time making productivity videos. There's certain videos that are similar to other ones out there, but eventually I might find an area that is different. As in, people are missing out on this specific aspect of productivity, and I can provide that. Or maybe it's not even to do with productivity. I don't know, because I haven't found it yet. But there's that idea. It's the same thing with things like research, where you'll find that niche. It's kind of crazy in PhDs that you're expected to kind of do that, but I think it's only when you're actually working for a long time as a researcher that you eventually get to that point. With my management role, I think I don't quite know what that means. I think our business itself has a mission, but maybe I'm a bit disconnected from what the eventual mission that I see myself being motivated towards over time actually would be. But I suppose the idea is that you might not have one at the start because you don't really know enough yet. It's really something that can hopefully come over time when you have had that career capital. And it's something that, again, once you have that career capital, you'll have that more control, that you can put yourself towards a project that you really believe in that will bring you a lot of satisfaction from your work as well. The final thing that I want to talk about in this video is when it is time to quit. I'm not telling you what to do at all. Do whatever you want. This is not proper advice, but based on the book and their kind of advice for what you can get from a job, the essential idea is that if your job can't provide you the opportunity to develop rare and valuable skills, then it might be time to let that go. You want to be in a job that you can develop career capital in, that you can eventually use to swap for control or for working towards a mission that you really believe in. But without those rare and valuable skills, it's unlikely that you'll get to that point. The second point that you might consider would be if the job that you're doing focuses on something that you don't feel is useful, or that you actively feel is bad for the world. That probably goes without saying, but maybe it doesn't, you know? If you don't see the value of your work, it's going to be hard to enjoy that work for sure. Finally, if your job forces you to work with people that you really dislike, that's likely going to be a job that you won't enjoy over time and could potentially be a reason to consider leaving. But yeah, just wanting to follow your passion alone is not a good enough reason, apparently. So something for us all to think about. I'm definitely rethinking things a lot at the moment. I don't know where I'll end up, but I will keep you posted. I'm going to, keep working as I've been working and see where it goes. But it's given me a lot to think about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.